Okay, here's our first tank review. T25/2 American Tier 7 turreted tank destroyer. And, it's very situational. You're either going to be playing this thing as a light tank, medium tank, or a tank destroyer. Same tank, of course, but you gotta play it differently depending on what matchmaking you're in, what tier game, obviously, and what your situation is. If you're on open ground, you're going to want to play this thing as the nearest hold down spot you could find. However, there are times where you go to play this thing as a medium. But in any case, the line you need to go up through to get to it is separated by the M8A1, or you can go to the Wolverine and up to the Hellcat. I would recommend going to the Wolverine up to the Hellcat because you get more armor that way, but not through the Jackson, unfortunately. Which kind of doesn't make sense because you get the Jackson's mobility in this thing, which is kind of weird, but the Jackson goes to the non-turreted line. So this one journeys up into the T28 prototype there. I'm 13,000 XP away from that. Or at least I was when I made this video. I've already got the thing. And to be honest, the turret traverse speed says it's so much better than it actually is. The vehicle was designed in 1943, but it was based on the T-23, which never entered service, so this vehicle was never actually made. It gets at most 76 millimeters of frontal armor, 51 at the side and 38 at the rear. Same story with the turret from the front, 76 millimeters plus 25 everywhere else on the turret. The shell damage only tends to do about 200, which is not the 180 to 300 that it says it will do. It's like dead in the middle. You can put out a pretty good amount of fire with this thing, with its upgraded gun, 7.79 rounds a shot. Stock, however, it's a different story. You still put out the same amount of rounds, but the penetration is reduced. You still keep the same damage from the Hellcat's gun. And that gun has been on the Hellcat entirely. It's the best gun you're going to get on the Hellcat, and you don't get much other than penetration when you upgrade to the new gun on this tank. And then you're stuck with the same gun on the T28 prototype. So you get stuck with this gun for a while, you learn how to use it. Supplies. I always carry 7 rounds of HVAP, or high velocity armor piercing ammo, because this thing gets into matches against tier 9 tanks. Equipment that I would load on this thing, I don't load any. Medium caliber tank gun rammer, you always want more reload time. An enhanced gun lane I would probably be the best option after that, because the fuel tanks are so vulnerable as is, no need to protect them, and no binoculars. You don't want to sit still, use coated optics. When binoculars would be useful, you'd be sitting out in the open, and that's not what this machine is made for. You'll get destroyed. So in mine, I've killed 92 enemy vehicles, gotten 4 medals, mastery. I adapted very well to this tank. It takes somebody that can be very adaptive to their situation. You can't always just rush into this tank either. If you don't have a lot of time to spend on this game, like for instance, I had to quit this thing during the school year and just did not have enough time to play it. It requires a lot of time to use, and you kind of can't go off and on with it, because it's not a very fun machine to drive unless you're really good with it, and you need to have a certain type of adaptability to be good with it. Also, weak spot. Back end where the turret sticks out, that's where the ammo rack is. Yeah, very vulnerable. But if you're looking for a tank destroyer to go with, I would recommend the T25 AT line. It's more adaptable and more forgiving. This thing, the armor's paper and fuel tanks and ammo racks. So next video we'll have the gameplay of this, so see part 2.